بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. So let's continue from where we left off. We had started to talk about when it comes to doing prayers during safar, during traveling, right? And we had discussed that when you travel, you're allowed to do two things. If you're traveling, you're allowed to do qasr and jama', or either go around and put it over there. Put it in the women's side. So you're allowed to do qasr and jama'. Qasr as in the 4 rak'ah prayers can become 2 rak'ah prayers, and jama' as in putting 2 prayers in the same timing. Meaning you put dhuhr and asr and either dhuhr or asr's timing, or in maghrib and isha either maghrib or isha's timings. Okay. What we had talked about were the conditions that would allow you to do qasr and jama' during travel. The first condition, أن يكون سفره في غير معصية. For the travel cannot be for a sinful purpose. If you're traveling and your purpose is to sin, then you can't do it, obviously. The second condition for the Shafi'iyya is that it's 16 farsakhan, which is around 82 to 83 kilometers, anything over 81 kilometers. When يكون مؤديا للصلاة الرباعية, and that he prays anything that the 4 rak'ah prayers normally, the ones that he missed during the time he was not traveling. So you can't go travel with intention so you can make up for all the prayers that you left when you so they're half price. No, you have to pray them for. And ينوي القصر مع الإحرام, meaning you have to have the intention of doing qasr to cut it down to 2 rak'ah before you make the takbiratul ihram, before you actually start the prayer. وَأَلَّا يَأْتَمَّ بِمُقِيمٍ, mean that you do not pray behind someone who's praying, who lives in the city that you travel to and is going to pray a complete prayer. So if you're traveling from Toronto and coming to London and you want to pray 2 rak'ah or isha, you can't pray behind us 2 rak'ah. You'd have to pray 4, or else you just pray on your own 2 rak'ah. If you're going to follow someone who's a resident, then you're going to have to pray the full 4 rak'ah behind them. Okay. Now we talked. Yes, go ahead. Yeah, so you wait for their jama'at to finish and you start another one. Yeah, so you have to wait for their jama'at to finish, or just pray 4 rak'ah behind them, and just don't do it 2, just do it 4, which is what most people do and what I think is a better choice. Now, we're going to talk about the distance that is okay for us to use for qasr. We're talking about the distance, all right? Now, the Shafi'iyya, they said that it's 16 farsakhan, which is basically 83 kilometers. All right, so the Shafi'iyya, they say it's 16 farsakh. Now a farsakh is 3 miles, all right? So that turns into 48 miles, which adds up to around 83 kilometers. Right, so that's for the Shafi'iyya. Now, are there other opinions on the matter, just so that we kind of go through them one by one? Yeah, there are other opinions on the matter. It has been related that Ibn Umar, the Sahabi Ibn Umar, he had a different, because he said 10 farasikh, which is 30 miles, which adds up to 48 kilometers. All right. Ibn Abbas said the travel of 1 day. Ibn Abbas and some of the Hanabila. It's an opinion within the madhab, Hanbali madhab, that is 8 farasikh. Make him English. 8 farasikh, which is 24 miles. I did the, which is 38 kilometers. This is the travel of 2 days. How they came up with it, this is how much you can travel on a camel, 2 days. You do 16 farsakh. So the Shafi'iyya say 2 day travel. Hanabilas, they say 1 day travel. All right. Ibn Umar said something is 10 farasikh, is something in the middle. All right. There's a narration that Anas ibn Malik, the Sahabi, he said 5 farasikh, which is 15 miles. Which is, 25 kilometers. It's giving you different Anas ibn Malik. So Anas ibn Malik being one of the Sahaba also narrated from him that he did that. Now another example is what Ibn Taymiyyah says and what Imam Malik accepts and what most of the Hanafi are okay with. ما دام يعد سفرا, anything that is considered in the norm of people's understanding to be travel. Anything that you can consider travel, you're traveling, then you can do qasr and jama', even though you may not be exceeding a certain number of kilometers on the way. So, and that is an acceptable, even a strong opinion that exists within the madhahib. So even if you don't have a certain distance, so it's not. So you can see it goes from 25 to 83 kilometers. There's a lot of different opinions. Of course, what is the safest opinion here? Is what the Shafi'iyya took, right? The 83 kilometers, that's the safest opinion. But if you were to take other opinions that say 48 kilometers, 38 kilometers, 25 kilometers, or anything that is considered traveling, or just basically leaving the city that you're living in, meaning you're past all the houses of the city that you live in, then that is considered traveling. You can do qasr and jama' as well. And doing all that, you do have a basis for your claim. So if you were to do that, then you have basis. You could say yes, there's evidence to support what you're doing and what you're saying. And that is yes.
Ibn Taymiyyah said it was based on order?
Yeah, so مَدَامَ يُعَدُّ سَفَرًا, Ibn Taymiyyah, Abu Hanifa, Malikiyah, مَدَامَ يُعَدُّ سَفَرًا, anything that is considered within the norm of people to be travel, even if it's not restricted by a distance, by how far we're going, anything that is considered safar. And that is, I think, that's acceptable as well. If you want to be on the safe side of things, like want to make sure you're on the safe side, then stick to what the Shafi'iyya said, which is 83 kilometers, which is the longest distance that we have. Now, when it comes to doing qasr and jama', for the Shafi'iyya, it's a rukhsa, meaning you're doing something, you're taking a way of ease that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has offered you. And that's how the Jumhur see it. The Hanafiya specifically, they say it's azima. يَأْثَمُ إِذَا أَتَمْ. Meaning that for the Hanafiya, you get ithm if you don't do only 2. You don't cut it down. Because Abu Hanifa sees this as a azima. He sees doing 2 rak'ah, meaning cutting down the number of rak'ah during travel, as a command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you don't do it, then you're going to be held accountable. So you can take that if you want and enjoy that. But for the Jumhur, it's more as a rukhsa, meaning it's a way of ease that you were offered. You can do it if you want to. When it comes to, for the Shafi'iyya, when it comes to jam' al-taqdeem, so if you're going to pray dhuhr and asr in dhuhr time, then you have to do dhuhr and asr. Dhuhr then asr. You can't do asr then dhuhr. If you're doing it in the prayer of the time of the first prayer for the Shafi'iyya, if you do it opposite, then you lose both prayers. Yes, that's important for you to know. So if you're following the Shafi'i madhab in this specific instance, when it comes to doing jama', you're doing 2 prayers together, dhuhr and asr, maghrib and isha. If you're going to do it in the first prayer slot, then you have to do it in the proper sequence. If you flip the sequence, you lose both prayers. But in the second prayer slot, you can flip it if you want. So if you're doing an asr time, you can do asr then dhuhr. You don't have to do dhuhr then asr. But if you're doing the first prayer slot, you have to do maghrib then isha. You can't flip it for the Shafi'iyya. Okay, that was just yes.
Can you repeat the people that agree with Ibn Taymiyyah and Abu Hanifa?
So Abu Hanifa and Imam Malik are both okay with this. It's not the Malikiyya's madhab, but Imam Malik, there's a riwayah from him. Yeah, one of his opinions was accepting that anything that is considered to be safar, anything that's considered to be travel. Yes.
So when you're combining the 2 prayers,
yeah.
Is it okay to do it like anytime as long as within the 2 prayers as long as you're traveling?
Yeah.
Like only when you're like in the actual state of like traveling?
No. But what is so that to answer that question, we'll say what is the time that is acceptable for you to be able to do prayers? Do qasr and jam' qasr, meaning how long do you need to be traveling? What are the number of days? So let's say you're traveling to Toronto, you stay there for 2 days and come back. Are you allowed to do jam' qasr during your stay in Toronto? Yeah. So yes. So there's a difference of opinion on it. And I told you last time I was going to put it all down so you guys knew it. So this is regarding the distances. the simplest opinion I didn't write down, which is obviously anything that is considered travel, right? Now let's go down to the opinions as far as time. So the Hanabila, it's a matter of, so anything that's more than 4 days, anything that's less than 4 days is acceptable. But it has to be less or equal to 4 days. Meaning you have to be going somewhere. If it's more than 4 days, then you have to pray normally. For the Hanabila, that's how it is. So if you're going for 5 days, then you pray on the way. On the way, you can do Jam' al-Qasr. Like if you stop en route to to get something to eat, you can pray Jam' al-Qasr. But once you're in Toronto where you are, then you have to pray normally. If the intention is to be there for more than 4 days. The Shafi'iyya and the Malikiyya, both of them together, have the same opinion of if it is less than 4 days. Has to be less than 4 days. It can't be less or equal to 4 days. If it's 4 days for the Shafi'i, you can't do it anymore. It has to be less than 4 days. All right? For the Hanafiya, it has to be less than 15 days. So if you're traveling and you're staying somewhere for less than 15 days, you can do Qasr and Jama' in the opinion of the Hanafiya. Abu Hanifa himself, an example for another person like Ibn Taymiyyah, what they said is that as long as you have the intention of travel, meaning as long as the intention is traveling, you can do Jam' al-Qasr, even if that ends up years at a time. So let's say you traveled, you went to a country only with less than 4 days, and then you got stuck there. For some reason, your passport expired, you lost your visa, something happened, and you end up staying there for a couple of months, right? You can do Jam' al-Qasr the whole time. Because again, not based on these guys' opinion, but based on the other opinion that says as long as you have the intention of doing safar, which is what something Abu Hanifa said, Ibn Taymiyyah accepted, and other scholars, even more modern scholars, have accepted, because there's a psychological element to it. Yeah, because in your mind you're still traveling. You haven't really settled down. So it's more on whether you've settled down or have you not settled down yet. And when they came up with these, are there other examples? The Prophet ﷺ did Jam' al-Qasr. Did Jam' al-Qasr for 20 days in Tabuk, and for 19 days during the Fath of Mecca. During the Fath of Mecca, he did Jam' al-Qasr for 20 days at a time in 19 days. So there is evidence that he did more than 4 days. Why did they stuck to the evidence that they felt was stronger, and they said 4 days is what they're okay with. The Shafi'i, what we're studying right now, is it has to be less than 4 days. If it's 4 days or more, then you have to pray normally. If it's less than 4 days, then you're allowed to do Jam' al-Qasr for the time that you're there. That's why they'll tell you 3 days. They'll say 3 days, because 3 days, 3 days and a few more prayers, as long as it's less than 4. So how do you add that up? You add that up based on there's 5 prayers a day. So for them, 5 times 4 days, 20 prayers. So if you're going to be there for anything that is 20 prayers or less, you're good. Here you have to be 19 prayers. If it's going to be for 20 prayers, then you have to do itmam. By the Hanafiya, just the same thing. Just do the math, and you end up with 75 prayers. Just.
So the day of entry will day of leave.
No, so we don't count either. We don't count either. So you don't count for any of these. Yeah, so for all these, you don't count, none of them count the day of entry or leaving, or departure. You're just counting the time that you're staying in the place that you're staying. So these are days that you're counting based on where you're staying, yes?
If you're traveling in a group and you're traveling with a group, and so do you, when you pray, like you do it in a congregation?
Yeah.
Do you do like 2 and 2, or you do like
No. You can pray Jam' al-Qasr in congregation. It's no problem. Yeah. That's actually better. Like you want to do it in congregation, and you get more hasanat.
So they all agree though that while you're traveling, you're allowed to combine in short regardless of how many days.
Yes, regardless. Yes, of course.
Okay, and then the second thing is, once you say that as long as you're in the mentality of a traveler, that's like Ibn Taymiyyah, like people that...
So Abu Hanifa was the first one to talk about it. It's not the madhab al-Hanafi, but Abu Hanifa was the first one, and then Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qudama. I don't know who else. I can't remember. There's a long list of scholars. Most of them are modern scholars. I don't know. I don't have all the names in my head, but it is an opinion that is held with some regard, because it's focusing on the actual wa'atha or shatha as-safar, the difficulty of traveling, which is the psychological element, being one of the things. Okay. Yes, let's continue. Yes. Good, good.
I just have 2 questions. One, I've seen people like, for example, if they're traveling for more than like back home, and they're traveling for more than 14 days, what they do is they pray, they travel for the 14 days, and then after they pray regularly. Is that, like,
yeah, that's acceptable as well. Yeah, so after 14 days you have to continue normally. So if you stay for the first 14 days, you're for the Hanafiya, you're considered musafir, or 15 days, and then after that you have to continue normally. But on the way, whether you're when you're going there and coming back, you can obviously do qasr and jama'. You can do jama' and qasr. But for the time staying there, it has to be, you have to follow one of the madhahib. Or if you are accepting the opinion of, as long as I'm in the mentality of safar, then that's something you accept as well. The Shafi'iyya, it's less than 4 days. It has to be less than 4 days in order for you to be able to jama' and qasr. So if you're staying for more than 4 days, you can only do jama' and qasr for the first 4 days, or the first 3 days and a half, and then you have to continue normally. And that's an opinion that's accepted as well. Okay.
so you check last.
Yes.
Is there a preferred method, like whether like to praying, like with either just shortening it, or like they shorten the prayer, or you shorten and combine, like?
So it's up to you. Doesn't really matter. This is totally up to you. Now the whole point of it is that it's a safar, so there's difficulty. So do what is the easiest for you, right? So the jam' and qasr is there to make life easier for you, like, so that you can, because you're busy, you're not settled down, you don't know how your day is kind of progressing. It's not like you're just not totally focused or comfortable. So do what's easier for you. So there's really no preference here. If you want to talk about one preference, is maybe doing jam' and qasr in the first at the beginning of the first time of prayer, like meaning you do jam' and qasr at dhuhr time and then jam' and qasr at maghrib time, just because ta'jeel salawat is something that is has merit in the deen. But besides that, there's really no preference at all. Okay, so we'll continue reading where we left off. After we talked about the conditions, وَيَجُوزُ لِلْمُسَافِرِ أَنْ يَجْمَعَ بَيْنَ الظُّهْرِ وَالْعَصْرِ فِي وَقْتِ أَيِّهِمَا شَاءَ. So the traveler is allowed to combine dhuhr and asr in either times, in dhuhr time or asr time, it's up to him. وَبَيْنَ الْمَغْرِبِ وَالْعِشَاءِ فِي وَقْتِ أَيِّهِمَا شَاءَ. Or combine between maghrib and isha in either times, in maghrib time or isha time, it's open. So there's really no preference. وَيَجُوزُ لِلْحَاضِرِ في المطر أن يجمع بينهما في وقت الأولى منهما. Now, for residents, it's okay to do jama', right, specifically في المطر when it's raining heavily outside. في وقت الأولى منهما, in the time, in the first time, at the time of the first prayer. So you can't do jama' during rain in this time of the second prayer. So you can do dhuhr and asr or maghrib and isha, but you have to do it at dhuhr time and at maghrib time. Why? Because there's evidence that the Prophet ﷺ did that many times, and he talked about it. Meaning, it was raining outside, it was heavily raining, and it was difficult for people to go to the masjid, so they would pray maghrib and isha. So people didn't have to come back for isha an hour and a half later in the bad weather. Now, with that, so is that can we still do that today? Yes, we can still do that today if you would like to do that today. However, I do find that doing it today is very confusing and very difficult, just because of لِتَرَامِ أَصْقَاعِ النَّاسِ وَالْأَمْصَارِ, meaning the cities are much bigger. It's hard to communicate that with everyone, and then people come, they have cars, so it's much easier for them to come here. And if they come on salat time and don't find anyone, then they've missed the jama'ah. So the way I see it is that what would happen in a situation, let's say at maghrib time today, it was pouring rain outside, it was snowy, really bad weather, then we could pray maghrib and isha, and then the people who did that don't have to come back. But those who didn't can come back and they'll find a jama'ah to pray with. So it'll be the only time where you can do 2 jama'ah of the same prayer formally. Even though there's a lot of difficulty with that being accepted, like for from a jurisprudence point of view, just doing 2 jama'ah in the same masjid formally for the same prayer is problematic. But I think in this situation is the only one that I think it would probably be acceptable, just because of the fact that it's hard to actually, you can't get everyone, because many people don't come from maghrib anyway. Like they're at work, they're going to come from isha. So if you've already added them together, then you kind of some people will find it quite difficult. Yes. So there's really not much we can't measure it that well. There are measurements within each madhab and how they look at it. But anything that is urfan, heavy rain, anything that can be identified as heavy rain within the norm or the understanding of people, here I'm pretty sure the definition of it would be very different than it was in the Middle East in certain parts because of just the different nature of rain and snow.
Regarding combining Isha, Maghrib and Isha, like if I'm in Toronto at Maghrib time, and but I know I can reach back around 9 o'clock, still good Isha time. So can I still combine Maghrib?
Yes.
Even if I can reach?
Even if you can reach. So I'm good with the opinion that you started the day traveling, then you can do Jam' al-Qasr for all the prayers of that day. Even if you end up arriving here during Dhuhr time, so you're technically not traveling anymore, Asr and Maghrib and Isha, but you were traveling that day, so you can continue, and I'm okay with that opinion as well. Yes?
So you mentioned that the only time you can pray a prayer twice is for that rain, but what about Friday prayer?
Friday prayer is a different fatwa. Like the fatwa that they based it on is a whole different thing. Like the basis for that fatwa is more than a necessity of numbers, meaning there's too many people, we can't fit them in a place. So it's not really something, so it's a darura. Here this is not really a darura. We're not talking about a darura here. We don't have to pray Isha, but I'm thinking that, but this being something that could be accepted from a jurisprudent point of view, that's not darura. But when we talk about darura, that's a whole different thing, which is basically what we have in the community today.
على صلاة الجمعة هو على رأي والله أعلم إنه وقت صلاة الجمعة ليس يعني دخول وقت الظهر باقي الأيام. وقت الجمعة على رأي والله أعلم إنه عند الزوال.
Sure.
تكون الشمس بمنتصف السماء.
Sure.
وهذا الذي يؤخذ به هنا في أغلب المساجد
Sure.
في كندا عشان الرأفة بالازدحام.
Yeah, but
هناك رأي والله أعلم إنه وقت الجمعة على رأي إنه وقت الزوال يعني منتصف النهار يعني 12.
Yeah, but that's not.
موجود هذا الرأي.
Yeah, but that's what Dhuhr is. Dhuhr is after Zawal. So Zawal is, if you look at it, is 12:11. So that's when the Zawal is 12:10, meaning when the sun moves from the middle of the sky, that's Dhuhr time. But during the summer, they have Dhuhr around 11. It's at 12, but the Dhuhr time or Zawal is actually 1:30. So you're doing it a good hour and a half before the Zawal happens. So it's not really based on that you're within Dhuhr time. It's more based on necessity. It means based on darura. It's not based on the fact that this timing is acceptable for you to pray Dhuhr in. If it were, then you would just basically, what we would do, we would just make the two prayers between Dhuhr and Asr. Yani Dhuhr starts 12:11. You would have a prayer at 12:20, and then you have another prayer at maybe 2 o'clock, which is still within within Dhuhr time. But what they're doing here is a different system. It's based on the necessity of the community. Wallahu alam. I'm not sure exactly what they're what they based it on. So I don't lie, but I know that it's not based on the first one. Most of the time, the first prayer is not during the time of Dhuhr, not for any ra'i. Yes.
I couldn't understand if we come back like Dhuhr time, can we still continue praying Qasr that day?
So I'm of the opinion that that's okay, even though that's not the majority. The majority is if you're traveling during Dhuhr time, you can pray Dhuhr and Asr, right? And then when you arrive, then khalas, now you have to pray normally. So if you didn't pray Dhuhr and Asr and you arrived home during Asr time, then you can pray Dhuhr Qasr, but you have to pray Asr fully.
The one which was left.
Yeah. So that's the prominent position. However, I'm okay with I'm of the opinion that if you started the day traveling, then that day is considered a traveling day. You can do Qasr all day, even if you end up arriving after just a bit after Fajr. I take that. I think that's just my opinion. Yes.
Yeah. Notice some people like you go to Toronto and so on. Let's say the Dhuhr time, they went to a masjid, Mississauga or Toronto. They prayed 4 ركعة with the Jama'ah. Says they can't make qasr, they're entering the Jama'ah. بعد الأربعة الجماعة ظهر الله أعلم they can't make 2 عصر مع 4 ظهر. It should be 2 with 2.
No, you can do that as well.
You can make
yeah. So you're fine. Yeah. So you don't have to do Jam' al-Qasr together. You can do Qasr for one and not Qasr for the other. It's not a problem. Yeah. So Qasr, you don't have to do it together for it to work. All right, so you can do one full and you can do one qasr. It's really up to you. Every prayer is treated different. Every prayer is treated individually here. Every prayer is its own thing. So if you want to do qasr for this one, you don't have to do qasr for that one. You want to do jami' taqdeem for this one, you don't have to do it for that one. It's really up to you, really. The only restriction that is in the Shafi'iyya is that if you do jami' taqdeem, then you have to do it in sequence. You have to do dhuhr then asr, maghrib then isha. Don't flip the sequence for the Shafi'iyya. But besides that, it's quite open. All right. I wanted to talk, before we continue the next, we're going to talk about Jum'ah. The second chapter, or the chapter that we're moving on to is Jum'ah. Before I do that, I'm going to add a little piece of information that's not in the text regarding prayer, just to kind of help you out. I do this every time, I'm just adding something. So when it comes to going from wuquf, rafa' to sujood, right? So when you're going from rafa' to sujood, what are you supposed to do? So if you're standing, Sami Allahu liman hamida, Rabbana wa lakal hamd, now you're going to go to sujood. So you can go like this, right? Some people do like this. And then others will, instead of going on their knees first, they'll go down with their hands first, right? So what is the ruling on that? So for the Shafi'iyya, all right, and the Hanabila, and the Hanafiya, you go down with your, what do you go down with?
Knees first.
Yes, you go knees first, all right?
First for the Hanafiya and the Shafi'iyya,
yeah.
And then for the Maliki.
And for the Hanabila.
Hanabila, they go the other way.
No, the Hanabila, the Rajeh and the Hanabila, meaning the prominent position is actually going, it's a riwayah and Ahmad to do the opposite.
Oh, okay.
So the prominent position in the Hanbali madhab is you go down with your knees first, like the Shafi'iyya and the Hanafiya. Malik, Imam al-Awza'i, and a narration from Ahmad, rahimahullah, is that you go with your hands first. Okay, so there's two opinions, and they're a bit and they differ on this issue.
Accepted.
Yeah, you can do either. Yeah. It's a hayya.
Is there an opinion where you do both at the same time?
I heard that from Mu'adh Abu Aisha, but I think he heard from a scholar that you could do both. It kind of avoids the issue of sitting like a camel, because that's what the hadith was trying to, we're trying to avoid, right?
Sure.
And then if you watch how a camel sits, it's subjective. If you think it's its legs, and I guess its front elbows go down first, right? So to avoid the issue completely, if you go down simultaneously.
Now if you go down simultaneously, you'll break both, inshallah. You'll break your hands and your knees like at the same time. It's going down simultaneously is actually it makes a lot of noise too.
I think if you just go like slowly, like so if you're just like this, and you just go down.
So you didn't do that. Your hands came first.
It was almost.
Nope. You go. You'll keep on doing until you get it. You're not going to get it. It's impossible. If you come down, you're going to hit hard. You need just to have an anchor point and then have another one. I just bring it up because people talk about it a lot, and I just want you to know that there's two opinions. The Shafi'iyya, they go knees first, and so do the Hanafiya, and so does the majority of the Hanabila. In Malikiyya and the narration from Ahmad, Imam Awza'i, they say you go with your hands first. But either way, it's not a problem. Wallahu a'lam, the whole point of this is you don't slam down to the ground. Don't slam down and make a lot of noise. It doesn't really matter which one's going to go first. It's a hayya anyway. I think that's more of the, because when what is the common thing for, what is the thing that stands out for how the camel sits down? When the camel sits down, it makes a lot of noise and a lot of dirt comes flying because it's just very, very awkward when it sits down. It's clumsy. So when you're going down, just don't slam the ground. Whether you do your hands first, your knees first, well, it doesn't make a difference. But I just want to bring that up, these are the opinions, so you know. Yes.
Let the Prophet Muhammad go down to the knee.
So there's different. The reason that there's a difference of opinion is because there's a difference of narrations. Some narrations said this, some narrations said the opposite. So either the guy who's narrating mixed it up, or he did both, which I think is the case, that he did both. He went down sometimes like this, sometimes like that. So it's more kind of based on. Of course, if there's a preference based on your own health, then that's a whole different story altogether. Okay, so we start now with shara'itu. Yes.
So I've seen some people, like, I guess because of their knees, they can't fully go down like the shuffle.
Yeah.
So they just kind of go like this. Like, is there like a ruling on, like, you have to, like,
for medical issues
all the way down, or if you can't, then it's just like
okay, so anytime there's anything that is health based, like you do what you can. So you do what you can. You don't really need to ask a fatwa for it. You don't need to ask anyone's permission. Do your best. If there's something wrong, if you have an injury in your legs or in your back or in your knees or anywhere at all, do whatever you can do basically to keep prayer as similar as it can to be to the regular prayer without harming your body. So everything I'm talking to you guys about and teaching is for the someone who is in their full health, someone who has no injuries, no medical history, no medical issues. But if someone does, then you don't need to. You do what you can basically, and it's not a problem at all. You don't need to do ask any questions. Okay. وشرائط وجوب الجمعة 7 أشياء. And there are 7 conditions for Jum'ah to become wajib upon people. Right? For the wujub of Jum'ah, for the obligation of Jum'ah, there are 7 conditions. Number 1, so for me to say that it's obligatory for you to go to Jum'ah, then you have to fulfill 7 conditions. Number 1 is Islam. Obviously, you have to be a Muslim. Non-Muslims are not obligated to come to Jum'ah. Number 2, al-bulugh. You have to have you're mature. You've achieved maturity, purity in the traditional, opinion. Then I think more just maturity, mental maturity is being also something needs to be addressed. Okay, well, aqlu, meaning the person has to be mentally capable. You have to someone cannot be mentally disabled or has any form of retardation. Then they're not obligated. Well, hurriya, freedom. So it's not obligatory upon those who were in slavery to go to Jum'ah. With dhukuriya, so it's obligatory upon men and not women. Well, sihhatu, meaning someone who is in their full health, someone who is sick or has any disease at all, then they don't have to go to Jum'ah. Well, istitan, and the most important one, the last one that we forget, is that you have to be a resident living within the area, or living within a village or a city. The Bedouins during the life of the Prophet ﷺ, they never came to Jum'ah and he never told them to ﷺ. They were just they roamed the earth. They didn't really have a place where they lived. And if you're traveling, then Jum'ah is not wajib. So let's say you're traveling to Toronto for a day. It's on Friday. You don't have to go for Jum'ah. You just pray qasr and Jama' dhuhr and asr. You don't have to do Jum'ah at all because it's not wajib alayk because you're traveling, you're not a resident.
I've been told that if you didn't start traveling before Fajr, that you had to still...
No, so if you're traveling anytime before Dhuhr, then you have to, or if you have the intention of traveling, you have the plan of traveling anytime before, within that day, then you're fine. Yes?
Traditional stance on the bedroom, like in terms of qasr salat, how did they practice it?
We don't really know. They couldn't do qasr and jama' obviously because that was the norm of their lives. It's just that they never had a jum'ah amongst themselves like the big Bedouin tribes of Arab. They didn't have jum'ah, and the Prophet ﷺ never commanded them to have jum'ah or to come to Mecca or to Medina for the jumu'at. Now what's really what the reason is behind that, we don't really know. They later on, once the Islamic civilization was a bit more established, they were put in territories, and they were asked to stay in those territories, and those territories had a governor. And once they had a governor, had a masjid, had a masjid, they had a Jum'ah, and they came to it. But before, I think the situation, the circumstances before that happened during the life of the Prophet ﷺ, that wasn't there, so he never commanded them to do it. But I think it was just a matter of time, of things changing, and once they changed, it was a different situation. Wallahu a'lam. Does that answer your question? Okay. وَشَرَائِطُ فِعْلِهَا ثَلَاثَةً. And the conditions of doing it are 3. So the 3 conditions for us doing Jum'ah. Number 1, أن تكون البلد مصرا أو قرية. So the area has to be a town or a village or a country or a city. It has to be a territory, something that is identified. This is the county of, right? So for the Bedouins, the Arab, they didn't have that. They were just kind of going around. There was no count. So if this is the county of this and you live in that county, then you have a masjid and you should be doing a Jum'ah. And even if you don't have a masjid, you still do Jum'ah. You still need to gather and have a khutbah, even if there's no actual built masjid. So there has to be a residential area that is identified. Number 2, أن يكون العدد 40 من أهل الجمعة. That there has to be 40 people there for Jum'ah. The story that one of my teachers, Sheikh Yasin Halima, rahimahullah, he tells me a story in our village that he said, this is around 45-50 years ago. He said there was a time at the village where, because they were Shafiee, they were heavily Shafiee at the time. I'll give you the different opinions regarding Jum'ah prayer. But for him, he said, because they need 40, that sometimes you'd be on the minbar and there'd only be 39 people. and you'll see someone on his, donkey plowing the earth, and he'd call upon him, Abu Fulan, come complete the 40 for us, so he can do Jum'ah. He would wait for him to get off and come and make wudu and sit, so he can continue doing the khutbah. For the Hanabila, it should be 40 with the Imam. So for the Shafi'iyya, 40 without the Imam. So the Imam and then 40 people. For the Hanabila, it can be 40 with the Imam. Even though their opinion is like the Shafi'i, but they can accept 40 with the Imam is acceptable. For the Malikiyya, it is 12 people plus the Imam. For the Malikiyya, it's 12 and the Imam. For the Hanafiyya, it's 3 people plus the Imam. Ibn Taymiyyah said it's okay for it to be 2 people plus the Imam, and Imam al-Shawkani said it's okay with being 1 guy and the Imam. But these are individual opinions. Meaning the lowest we have within the madhahib is the Hanafiyya, which is 1 Imam and 3 people. So if you're in your workplace or in a hospital, or you're somewhere in the city and you don't have access, or you can't make it to Jum'ah because there's not enough masajid that are close by, or you just can't leave. If there's 3 Muslims and there's 4 of you, then you guys should be able to perform a Jum'ah within your workplace or within the hospital, wherever you are. So think about that in case you're working or you're living, or same thing goes for schools. At school, 3 people and the Imam, that's an acceptable, evidence-based opinion. But even 1 person and the Imam, there's scholars who have accepted that, and well-respected scholars who have accepted that. Yeah.
What about if you are working far from city, like I work in Strathroy?
Okay.
Should I travel all the way, or?
Is there no Jum'ah in Strathroy? Establish one then.
I'm the only Muslim there.
No, that's impossible. There must be more than 3 Muslims in Strathroy. No, there's. I'm pretty sure you can come up with the 3 Muslims. Yeah. So if you're working in Strathroy, which is 40 minutes away, it's 40 kilometers away. Yes. So yeah.
Can we just say them again? So you said for the Shafi'i, you said 40 not counting the Imam. The Hanabila 40 counting the Imam.
Yeah.
Imam Malik said 12. Is that with or without the Imam?
So 13 altogether. 13 with the Imam, 12 without the Imam.
Okay.
Hanafiya 3 plus the Imam. So 4 people without the Imam. Or 4 people with the Imam, sorry. I'm sorry, my brain is fried. But that's so 3 people, Imam talking to 3 people, that's the Hanafi. Imam talking to 2 people, that's Ibn Taymiyyah's opinion. Imam talking to 1 dude is Imam al-Shawkani, he's okay with that. But yeah, so Imam al-Shawkani is okay with you standing talking to 1 person. Yeah, that's
it's a Jama'ah technically.
Yeah, to him it's still a Jama'ah. Anyways, the evidence and how they argued it is, I'm not.
Ibn Taymiyyah was 2, what did you say?
Yeah, Ibn Taymiyyah is 1 person talking to 2 people, so 3 altogether. Yeah. So for you, if 40 minutes away, you should come here and perform Jum'ah because this is the norm of your life right now. Meaning you are working there every single day. So this is not an exceptional situation. If you were in Toronto or you were for a weekend, if you're in Strathroy for a weekend, you're just there for a few days and you're going to stay there, then that could be, you could argue that you're doing qasr and jama' and you're not a resident. But if this is your work every day, then you have to come back and perform Jum'ah.
Then the prayer itself, that's like what, 2 hours?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 hours.
It's around 2 hours. Yeah, he's going to have to take up 2 hours off or come late on Friday.
You would say it's okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I wish I could say it's okay. I don't think, because that's the norm of your work. Unless you can establish Jum'ah in Strathroy. Just look for 3 people. I know Omar Chowdhury works at a clinic there, so that's another dude. Now, Shawkani is happy with you guys having a Jum'ah. Find 2 more people, Ibn Taymiyyah will be happy, and then Hanafi will be happy, you can do it. So just look for people, you should be okay, inshallah. All right. So that's the second condition, is 40 people for the Shafi'iyya, 40 people the Shafi'iyya only accept 40. And that's to be the safest. The safest of all is 40, which is the highest number the Shafi'iyya take. And they have their evidence is a bit more, it's stronger. The evidence that Shafi'iyya has is stronger because there's a hadith of Jabir. They said, Jum'ah la taqumu illa bi 40. Jum'ah only happens with 40 people. So they have more evidence. The Shafi'i and the Hanabila when they said 40. The third condition, وَأَنْ يَكُونَ الْوَقْتُ بَاقِيًا, meaning that there has to be enough time for Jum'ah. You have to do it within Jum'ah time. You can't do it during Asr time. If the time of Jum'ah is off, then you just pray, you pray normally. Meaning you just do qada of dhuhr. You don't do qada of Jum'ah. There's no qada of Jum'ah. Okay, you have to do Jum'ah during Jum'ah time, during dhuhr time. If dhuhr is over, then khalas, there's no more Jum'ah. You just do qada of dhuhr and you continue. So those are the 3 conditions as far as communities. The first condition being that the place has to be a residential area, has to be a county, has to be an acknowledged territory. There has to be 40 people. and it has to be during Dhuhr time. Now, looking at it like that, now we have a problem, because when we do Salat al-Jumu'ah at 12 o'clock in this masjid, you're not fulfilling one of these conditions for the Shafi'iyya. You're not fulfilling it doing it during Dhuhr time. It's a county and there's 40 people, but you're doing it outside of Dhuhr time, which is a problem. That's why when we say it's acceptable for them to do Salat al-Jumu'ah here, it's based on purely necessities, darura. And it can only continue as long as the darura continues. And once the darura is relieved, then you can't have two khutbahs in one masjid. And they've talked about that here, and it's understood, but it should be kind of repeated to everyone. You can't just have two Jumu'ahs all the time. One masjid, one Jumu'ah. Only if you literally have no space and there's so many people and there's nowhere else to go, then you can consider doing it 2 times. Preferably doing it within Dhuhr time, which is why I don't understand they don't do that here. It's weird to me, because you could actually get 2 khutbahs in. It'll be a bit confusing for people. I think that's the reason, is that once they start playing around with the timings, no one knows when Jumu'ah is, and everyone's coming at different times, and they're yelling, and people are fighting. So again, it's just a necessity of the community that we're living in. So just keep it with 12 and 1:30. I have my dad; he's been here for 9 years. He still doesn't know if it's 12:30 or 12 or 1:30 or when. He has no idea. Every single Friday he phones me. Is it 12:30? Is it 12? Is 1:30? No, it's 1:30 or 12, Baba. It's one of those 2 timings. So subhanAllah, it's just, I think, just the way life is. But it is a necessity. It is not something that is it's not an acceptable jurisprudent fatwa to be given without a necessity being a part of it. Yes.
So for the 12 o'clock prayer, wouldn't it take too long of time because we're praying the prayer itself after the time? Because 12:11.
No, so you're supposed to start the khutbah within the time. Yes, that's something that we. So you have to start the khutbah within the time as well. It's not just the salah. Okay. فإن خرج الوقت أو عدمت الشروط صليت ظهرا. If the time is done or there's a missing condition, صليت ظهرا. You pray dhuhr 4 rak'at and no khutbah and nothing. So if any of these conditions don't exist. وفرائضها ثلاثة. There are 3 obligatory things regarding Jumu'ah. Number 1, خطبتان يقوم فيهما ويجلس بينهما. The Shafi'iyya say there has to be 2 khutbahs. Not 2 khutbahs in this term that I talked about, one at 12 and one at 30. The Imam, when he's on the minbar, he's supposed to do 2 khutbahs. So he stands, he speaks, and then he says, and he sits down. Right? And then he gets up again, alhamdulillah, and he continues. So it has to be 2 khutbahs for the Shafi'iyya. That's a farilah for the Shafi'iyya and the Hanabila. Both of them agree on the fact that it has to, the khutbah of the Imam has to be 2 sessions. 1 session, then you sit down, then another session. However, the Maliki and the Hanafiya don't see that you have to have 2 sessions. 1 session is enough. So for the if you go to a Hanafi masjid, it would be very common, or it's not uncommon for you to see the Imam stand up, give the khutbah, you make the dua and then pray. And he does not sit for, you guys know what I mean when he sits for a second? He kind of sits and people don't know what to do, and they're waiting for him to stand up again. What are you supposed to do during the time when the Imam sits down? So astaghfir, do any tasbih, any dhikr. You're not supposed to read Surah Al-Fatiha, in case you're told to do that. Like, you're not supposed to read Surah Al-Fatiha. There's no evidence of that at all. So you're supposed to do any form of tasbih or dhikr, unless you are doing Fatiha as a form of tasbih or dhikr or dua, then that's acceptable. But besides that, the Imam usually says, أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه. Right? So make istighfar. So just sit down, astaghfirullah until he stands up again. Right?
Is there no evidence for this thing I heard about? That's the time that your dua is accepted.
Within the there's no hadith. Khutbatani, yes.
So sorry, can you just repeat? So for the Hanafi and the Malikiyya,
they're okay with one khutbah.
Without and then what? So no sitting required.
Yeah, no sitting required.
And then for the Shafi'i
and the Hanabila has to be 2.
For both.
Yeah, Shafi'i and Hanabila.
There has to be a sitting and there has to be 2.
Yeah. Now I'm going to talk about this matn, this text does not talk about the elements of the khutbah. I'm going to talk about them just so that if one day inshallah you do a khutbah, you know what it is that you have to hold on to. But let me just finish the sentence. وَأَن تُصَلِّيَ رَكْعَتَيْن. The second obligatory thing for Jumu'ah. So the first thing, it has to be 2 khutbahs. The second thing, you have to pray 2 rak'ah. The thing, fi jama'ah. The third thing, it has to be in congregation. So you can't do it alone, or you can't everyone just pray their 2 rak'ah on their own, which is obviously none of these things actually happen. But you have to understand these are the obligatory parts of Jumu'ah. For Shafi'iyya, it has to be 2 khutbahs, then you have to pray 2 rak'ah, and they have to be done in jama'ah. All this has to be done within congregation. So those are the 3 obligatory things that are needed for Jumu'ah. Now, when we talk about the 2 khutbahs, what's obligatory within the 2 khutbahs? Now, let's take the easiest opinion of all. The Hanafiya say mutlaq al-dhikr. any form of remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Any form of remembrance. Malikiyya say that tahdhir or tabshir. There has to be some form of warning of punishment Yawm al-Qiyamah, or giving good news of reward in Jannah. So there has to be some form of giving good news or warning as a part of the khutbah. The Hanafiyya say mutlaq al-dhikr, any form of remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remind them of Allah however you want, and that's considered a khutbah.
Not including dua?
But you don't need dua.
Sometimes they do first khutbah and then second khutbah they do dua.
At the end of it, you mean? Yeah, so
they don't do another second khutbah.
The whole second
khutbah and the whole second
dua.
yeah, that's fine. Yeah, but the Hanafiyya don't need the dua at all. The dua is not even a rukn min arkan al-khutbah for the Hanafiyya or the Malikiyya. For the Shafi'iyya, arkan al-khutbah, what you need for the khutbah, for it to be considered the khutbah, you need alhamd. There has to be praising of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the beginning of it. There has to be salah ala Rasulillah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There has to be the salawat al-Ibrahimiyya at the beginning of it as well. There has to be a remembrance of taqwa. There has to be some form of reminding people of taqwa. There has to be one ayah of Quran recited, at least an ayah, just one ayah of Quran has to be recited during the khutbah, and there has to be a dua at the end of it. This is for the Shafi'i. The Hanabila add to that, there has to be the shahadatain. I mean the two testimonies of faith should be made. Meaning ashhadu an la ilaha illallah Muhammad abdur rasulullah. That's why when the imams do that kind of intro for every khutbah, what they're doing is they're getting all the arkan of the khutbah for the Hanabila. Why? Because they have the most strict way of looking at it. They have the most requirements for the khutbah. So they get it all done just so that everyone here is okay. No one can say, well, for me, I follow this madhab and you didn't do the khutbah well enough for me, and there's a problem. So they cover it all within the first, the introduction. They do hamd, they do salah ala Rasulillah, they ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, usikum wa nafsi bi taqwa, they say the taqwa, and then they get it all done, and then they do dua at the end of it, so nothing. And there's a lot of details, whether when the imam makes dua, does he put his hands up, does he put his hands down, and there's a lot of difference of opinion regarding this, and people enjoy, fighting over stuff like that. But anyways, we're not going to get into it. As long as you understood, this is the arkan al-khutbah. So if you give a khutbah one day, and you're nervous, and you don't do most of what I talked about, but you did give a message of khayr, of taqwa, of dhikr, of the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then your khutbah is acceptable for the Hanafi and the Malikiyya. And Malikiyya will need for you to do some more form of warning. Most remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's some form of remembering Jannah, or remembering punishment, and for those two madhahib you're good. It's only for the Shafi'i and the Hanabila that have more strict rulings. The Imam Shafi'i, I explained to you what the requirements are. The Shafi'iyya need 2 khutbahs, 2 rak'ah in congregation. The 2 khutbahs have to have hamd, have to have salah ala Rasulillah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, has to have taqwa, the recitation of one ayah of Quran, and dua at the end of it for the khutbah to be considered khutbah. Alright. وَهَيْئَاتُهَا أَرْبَعُ خِصَالٍ. Yes?
So I've been to some Hanafi masjids where they do like a talk in English.
Yes.
And then they do the adhan, and after the adhan they read like a khutbah in Arabic.
Okay.
After the adhan they pray sunnah, then they do an Arabic khutbah,
sure,
and then they pray.
Sure.
Is that
So we'll talk next time. I'll go into a bit more detail regarding certain things about the khutbah al-Jum'ah. Some scholars don't accept Jum'ah being done in any other language but Arabic. And we'll talk about that inshallah next time. But I'll go a bit more detail inshallah. It's okay. Every time I'll add some information to it inshallah.
Question.
Yes.
Tahdhir is like the warning, and then what's the
Tabshir. Yes. Yeah. Glad tidings. وَهَيْئَاتُهَا أَرْبَعُ خِصَالٍ. And what is considered sunnah for the Shafi'iyya, by the word hay'at is sunnah for the Shafi'iyya, right? وَهَيْئَاتُهَا أَرْبَعُ خِصَالٍ. There are 4 things that are considered sunnah regarding Jum'ah prayer. Number 1, al-ghusl, which is showering. Right, taking a shower in the morning before you come to salah. وَتَنْظِيفُ الْجَسَدِ والغسل وتنظيف الجسد, which is doing ghusl and cleansing your body. Number 2, وَلُبْسُ الثِّيَابِ الْبِيضِ, and wearing white clothing, or so it's a sunnah if you have the ability, if you own it, to wear clothing that are light, at least as some scholars say, if not pure white. Number 3, وَأَخْذُ الظُّفْرِ, cutting your nails, وَالطِّيب, and putting on some fragrance of some sort, meaning smelling nice. So basically, what you take from these 4 hayat, these 4 sunan, is that you're coming. Try to come, look nice, smell nice, dress nice, kind of take care of yourself. You know, you're coming, it's a congregation. The Muslims are all coming together. You guys don't come together on an obligatory basis except once a week. You guys, you know, come maybe more voluntarily during other prayers. But now the whole congregation has come together. You're going to listen to the leader of the congregation to tell you what the next step is going to be, and then you're going to kind of socialize after that and talk to each other. So you want to smell your best, look your best, kind of be your best on that day. And your day of Jum'ah is considered a Eid, day of celebration. Again, Muslims celebrate by worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a bit more. And that's how we celebrate as Muslims. People here celebrate by doing haram or wasting a lot of money. As if you're a Muslim, you celebrate the concept of celebration for you is worshiping, doing an act of worship. So you want to celebrate your birthday, fine, get a cake, but give sadaqah that you don't give on regular days, or fast on your birthday, or do qiyam al-layl. That's how you celebrate your birthday. You want to celebrate something, celebrate it, but celebrate by doing something, by doing an act of worship, by doing something, a good deed that you don't do on normal days. Like specify that day with an act of worship. And that's how we celebrate as Muslims. You look at Jum'ah, we look at Eid al-Fitr, Eid al-Adha. It's all good deeds that you're doing. And that's the concept, that's the mentality of celebration within the deen. We don't celebrate by wasting money, by staying up all night, by, you know, doing sins, by committing or performing sins. We celebrate by drawing ourselves closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by a good deed or an act of worship. Okay. Yes.
Well, a quick question on celebrations. I thought festivals were restricted to the divinely prescribed ones.
Sure.
Is that like a rule of thumb? Or?
Yeah, exactly. So there's, you mean by ayad, yeah, the word.
Any kind of like celebration.
So it's only Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha.
Generation into various celebrations besides the religiously prescribed.
Yeah, so only Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha exist as congregational celebrations or festivals, as you put it. But in your life, you can celebrate many things. Let's say inshallah, you finish your articling and you want to celebrate that. So how would we celebrate that? We celebrate that as Muslims. The concept, the mentality of celebration is doing something good. Doing a good deed. You can enjoy the company of your family, eat, but always keep in mind, do a good deed. That's how we celebrate. I mean, because the festivals, the two festivals that we do have, which is Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha, look at them. They both have selfless deeds. You either Eid al-Fitr, you are giving. You have to give sadaqat al-Fitr in the morning to make sure that the money arrives in the hands, or the food arrives in the hands of the poor before the day begins. And Eid al-Adha, the whole concept of sacrificing is that meat is going to go and feed those who are in need as well. So when we celebrate, we always do something good, and I think it's worthy. Again, when the festivals are congregational celebrations, meaning celebrations for the ummah. But if you want to celebrate your birthday at home with your family, that's up to you. Like, it's something you don't need religious fatwa or religious. It's not a religious thing. It's more of just a personal day that you're remembering for whatever reason, whatever accomplishment you have, or whatever happened on that day a while back, or But just keep in mind that when we celebrate, you guys graduate high school, celebrate by doing something good, by adding a good deed to your day. And I think it's something worthy. The Prophet ﷺ, we have a hadith in Imam Muslim, when he was asked, why do you fast on Yawm al-Ithnain? Why do you fast on Monday? So that's the day that I was born. I was born on a Monday. So he would every Monday fast because that was his birthday. But well, technically, I don't think we can say birthday because it wasn't based on an annual cycle. It was more just I was born on a Monday, and he respects Monday by doing something good. And that's when you look at the Prophet ﷺ's life, that's always how he did things. Okay, we'll just stop here. So just a reminder of what we talked about quickly. The last thing we said, hay'atuha, the hay'at of Jum'ah, the sunan of Jum'ah are four things: al-ghusl, wa tanzif al-jasad, taking a shower and cleansing your body; lubs al-bidi min al-thiyab, or thiyab al-bid, wearing light clothing or white clothing if possible; akhd al-dhufri, cutting your nails with tib and putting on fragrances. And all four things they describe someone who is taking care of their appearance, coming to a celebration. Again, figuratively speaking, because but the Prophet ﷺ did call Jum'ah our Eid. He did use that word, even though it's not seen as a festival as you put it, but it's still a day of celebration. How do you celebrate? What does he tell us to do on the day of Eid of Jum'ah? أكثروا فيه من الصلاة عليه فصلوا على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى أصحابه أجمعين. The best thing you can do on the night of Jum'ah, the day of Jum'ah, is perform salawat upon the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم as much as possible. This is the day where the more you do sallallahu ala Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the more ajr you get, and it's a day that he will respond to you. So starting tonight, moving on to tomorrow morning, all through the day, if you want to choose a tasbih to make, then make the tasbih Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad wa sahbihi Muhammad wa dhurriyyati Muhammad, and go on. So make the salawat ala Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, get a lot of ajr for that. Any question before we're done? Yes.
Some people say that there shouldn't be two jamaats in the masjid for same prayer. What's that?
So at the same time, we shouldn't be praying two jama'ahs, like a little Isha here and then Isha over there.
Some people say don't pray even afterwards.
So formally you shouldn't do it, but informally that's fine. Like if 8 people walk into this masjid right now and they haven't prayed Isha, what do? They just pray everyone alone? No, they pray jama'ah, but it's not a formal salat jama'ah. It's not an announced one. You don't take the microphone and put it on and they read out loud. So it's informal. I mean, it's just based on people coming late or coming early or being unable to attend the formal yani jama'ah. So any formal jama'ah in a masjid has to be done only once. It can't be done more than once. Yes.
The person giving the khutbah doesn't have to lead the prayer. It seems kind of weird.
We'll talk about that inshallah next time. I'll go into more details regarding Jum'ah inshallah every time as we go along. Jazakumullah khairan, subhanakallah wa bihamdik.